through transparent communication. So today we do have leaders and pace setters in the house to foster this discussion and on how to break barriers and build a sense of belonging. So if we are all here and we're all ready to know what inspire inclusion really looks like, we should all please put a lot of emojis on our screen. I'm eager to see how active we are as we welcome our leaders and pace setters for today. Number one would be Edu, the co-founder of Wentors. I'm giving a round of applause. And we have Izuade, the head of network and solutions. And we also have Tammy, but I don't know if Tammy is here right now. She is.
Yeah.
Yes, I can see her. Hi, Tammy.
Hi,
so we have
she is.
Tammy, the VP of Program Manager at Barclays. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Everybody, please put your emojis on the screen. So I'm just going to give our leaders here a first question, that will go across the room, which is, please share with us your working background and any new project you recently worked on at your organization. And I'll be starting with Tammy.
Okay, sorry, just before
I think you should start with Edu.
We're coming to you, Tammy. You can't even run away. We're starting with you. But I thought it was very important to give a much-deserved apology. I'm so sorry, guys. We had a glitch in the link that we sent across. So I see that a lot of people, community members, have been struggling to join. We apologize. It's not typical of us. But again, technology is just an enabler, all right? So it is what it is. It's situations beyond our control. We apologize and we will fix it. And we promise we would do our best that it will not happen next time, okay? So I'm hoping that everybody because we had over 76 or I can't remember the details that wanted to join this session. I'm hoping we all have all of you, but we apologize. Now I will leave the floor back to Anita, who seems very excited because of the holiday and to just be going, right? Go ahead.
That's not true. I'm excited, but yes. So again, I would repeat the question for our Tammy to take over, but we want to know, please share your working background with us and any new projects that you've recently worked on at your organization.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining from. My name is Tammy Jato, as I've been introduced. First of all, I want to just comment on what Edu said. Actually, technology is just an enabler. And I think sometimes we rely on it a lot. And then we find resilience when it doesn't work. I know that there should have been about 70 people on here, but look at the number of people that are on here and the people that are continuing to join. That just goes to show that, we have that resilience to be able to fall back on our abilities to make it work no matter what. And you guys are a testament of that, because we are here. Technology was not having it, but we're stronger than that. So just back to the question then, and just use that to segue into my my response. So I work within business banking at Barclays, which is normally known as a finance institution, but actually there's a lot of technology stack that sits behind it. And so I don't want to just classify it as working in finance or in technology, but I think as what we've seen today, working in resilience. And so kind of like the projects that I guess the most interesting project that I've worked on is we are a 330-year-old bank. So that means a lot of our processes are either they are legacy and they're coming up to speed. And so we're looking at working across the whole piece at digitalizing a lot of our processes, efficiencies, a lot of the products that we offer to our customers, and making sure that we can make technology work for us and not the other way around, because it's very easy for us to work for technology, but make technology work for us.
Thank you. Thank you. Tinuade, would you love me to repeat the question or you got it?
Yeah, I got it. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Just let me follow the cue, like Tammy said. Thank you, Edubasi, for the amazing work you're doing. Thank you, Anita. you should get an award for the most follow-up mistress ever. Thank you so much. Thank you. I really appreciate that because I know it's a lot to put things together, and I'm glad to be here. My name is Tino Adeogutri, and you can call me Tino for short, or you call me a tech lady. Okay, my background is actually in connectivity, and have you wondered how you are able to sign on to this Zoom call? Is because there is an internet access that is available somewhere, somehow, through a cell point or the other. And I think I'm a connectivity champ, and I'm really excited about that. I bring people together to, share moments, learn, and also discover new things. So basically, I'm saddled with connecting businesses, like I said, and that is, you can look at the bank Tammy works. They have maybe how many remotes, if I may ask, Tammy? It's part of my duty to connect those remotes together. Yeah, you want to answer? Please go ahead.
We have over 3,500.
Wow, can you imagine that? So just imagine I'm somewhere seated and I make sure that the HQ and the remote offices get connected. They're able to share files and resources together. And also, of course, like I said, internet access, providing direct internet access from wherever you can imagine that internet has sprung up from. I make sure that that connectivity works. And of course, one of the major projects for me, and it's very it means a lot to me, is the rural community project that we are doing. Because if you look at it, it's easy to just quickly tap on all those same biases and all of that. But what about the ones that are created just because somebody lives in a rural area or somebody is somewhere in another corner that is very different from the urban or the suburb? So making sure that the digital divide is also closed even intentionally is part of the work we do. And that is amazing because now more people can come online to get learnings, to also interact and see what happens around the world. So for now, I'm looking at thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
What do you want to hear about? Is it the ongoing that
No. Wait. Let me come in. The question goes like this: share with us your working background, so you can start from there. Then from there you can pick a project that you want to
okay, working background. Okay, so I basically have so many lives, but from a professional standpoint, I have two lives. Wentors for sure. That's why you see me showing up today. And then I work with Microsoft as a cybersecurity expert. So I'll share about the other life, which I know you're not private to. So one of the most recent things that I've worked on was last week. So if you've been in the conversation or in the news, Microsoft has been launching out some AI products, which is very exciting times. So they've been Copilot that has launched out, which sort of helps you with your office. But most importantly, there's going to be a security product that is about that has been in the radar for cybersecurity. So what does that mean? Typically, you think that as a cybersecurity analyst or a cybersecurity expert, you need to be viewing systems and understanding where are threats coming from and all of that. But imagine that you had an AI solution that would just pick that would block the threats. So that's like what is in view. And so in the most recent, up until last week, Monday, which I could breathe, was we had the biggest cybersecurity event in the UK that had over 500 enterprise chief security officers in attendance. Something to mention, like I've been how many months old in the UK? I don't even know. It feels like I've been 10 years old in the UK, but I feel like I got into the UK and started swimming, and I'm like, oh, I'm sinking, but no, you can do it. But yeah, so that's like one of the most recent projects that I've had to work on, and which I'll say it was a resounding success that I'm extremely proud of. And again, just for that, saying that everything I tell you guys, everything we're trying to build for you in this community as Wentors are things that I am personally going through. And most of the time when I speak about it, I'm speaking about it from a personal journey. So yeah, I think even my team at Wentors are hearing that for the first time, but they just knew that there was no meeting that Monday. But they didn't really know what my life was up and about. But I think I'm happy to share that as a bonus. So yeah.
Thank you so much for that. Now I know why Monday has been a bit shaky for you.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so there's this question now, talking about inclusion, right? Because you're women that are doing big things in the tech industry. So the second one is also for three of you is recently, where have you seen the most positive strides in inclusion for women lately? Or and where is the progress still lacking? So especially in the tech industry, where have you seen inclusion for women lately, and where do you see that it's still a bit shaky that we need to work on? Let's take it off from with Edu.
Like you meant me today, Sha. But I would say, and this is very similar because I was on a panel conversation yesterday with Tech about. I would say it's a beautiful time to be alive as a woman. That's the truth. And I cannot categorically say that there is any space that it is lacking. I would rather say there are areas where we think it could be better. Right. And I'll look back at comparing 10 years plus 10 years ago and now. If you are a woman and you are actively looking to get into the technology ecosystem, and you're intentional about it, there's so many support programs, there's so many support groups. There is a Wentor, there is WeTech, there's so many of them. And so from where we sit, the areas I can only say it's not catching as much growth as it should, but it's a lot much better. And so I'm carefully saying that it's a lot much better is when I think of women-led founders, right? And so every now and then, if you're like me, that you're very into the tech news and what's going on in that industry, so every now you hear, oh, this founder has raised this amount of money, and we have to do more. How do we? Yes, well, there's a lot of drive on let's get a lot more women into tech, and with the kind of thing we're doing at Wentors, helping that sustainability and helping them to be sustained in tech. I'm also very curious on, let's have a lot more women innovators, let's have a lot more women building companies. We want to have a lot more women on Wall Street, that are leading the frontiers of tech enabled company. And I think that's where there could be an improvement. And this is not even from an African standpoint, but from a global view of yeah, that's where my mind space is.
That's great. Thank you for that. So over to Tammy. Where have you seen the most positive strides lately, and where is the progress still lacking for inclusion when it comes to women in the tech sector?
Yeah, no, I think Edu has actually hit the nail on the head. And I think a lot of organizations are now, and I think again it's the mentality that we're coming with it from, because a lot of organizations are now trying to tick that box on D, E, and I. They're trying to make sure that they are compliant, and at the end of the day, we can either take that wave and ride it, or start to say, oh, you're trying to tick a box. We don't really care if you're trying to tick a box. What we care is that we have the opportunity and we're going to take it any way that it comes, right? And so in terms of organizations broadening the scope for women to be able to start to use their voice, I think what I'll say, I'll speak from an internal and external perspective. From an internal perspective, we're seeing that the gaps that we need to close, as Edu highlights, is we don't have enough Black women, we don't have enough women of color that are working in the tech space. We have to be able to hold the organizations accountable, because 40% of organizations still have that gap where there's less than, they're short of 20% of Black women that are in the organization. this was as at 2023. So there's a lot to do. You can only see that. Someone muted me. Was that a mistake or?
Yeah, I think the other Wendy muted everybody because apologies for that.
Okay, no worries, no worries. I thought I said
This
something I wasn't supposed to
yeah.
say. So like shut up. So yeah, we have to get what was I saying? We need to get the women in positions of leadership, because it's again, we're taking that step forward from a tick box exercise. We have one woman, we have one Black woman, we have one Chinese woman. Okay, we're ethnically diverse. To now fighting for, well, we need to be in positions of leadership, because when we have diverse thinking across the board, making decisions, then we start to see the changes in our organizations. And so that's internally. I know that we're making strides. I'm also co-chair for Women in Technology for Barclays, for EMEA, making strides to close that gap, because we can see that in the leadership space now, about 12% of them are Black females in terms of MDs and directors. And it's how are we making sure that we can close that gap, by internally promoting, by internally creating that pipeline of talent, and by then also making sure that our hiring managers are looking for women that do fit that diverse cutout. We have to make sure that the people that are doing the interviews they have that cultural mindset. So there's an education piece that I think needs to happen in terms of talking about what Edu talked about closing the gap. And now externally then, it's also about the female-led entrepreneurs. What grants do we have out there? What programs, what accelerators do we have out there for them? There's on the 8th of March, I met two incredible women, Hannah Bernard and Debbie Wasco. And they're starting, I think they've just come into, and I think Edu would have seen this in the news as well. There's something called the Rose Review, and they've taken over that, and they're looking at how they can start to invest in women, how they can start to make sure that there's more investment for female-led entrepreneurships, and that's the direction that we should be going. So at this event, there was a gentleman from the direct Department for Trade there. He was representing obviously the ministerial part of that. And I said, why is it that we are averse to giving women grants? We want to give them loans, but if you're a startup coming against you, you have cost of living coming against you, you have all kinds of crazy costs coming against you. It's as though as soon as you start, you're not even given a chance to excel. So why aren't we in the business of giving women, say, here's a grant, you don't have to pay it back, use it to build up your business and pay it forward? And these are some of the conversations that we're having. What are the alternative means of funding? How can we make sure that we're empowering our women to be able to come into the space and own it, without the, as women, we're mothers, we're carers, we're doing everything, and then on top of that, we're trying to drive an organization forward for good. It's a lot to take on. So I'm glad that so Hannah Bernard and Debbie Wasco, please look out for them, because they're looking at how to make sure that women get that investment funding that is needed for their accelerator programs, and for just making that difference that we need to see in the technology space.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, Chiraje, over to you.
Okay, amazing. In fact, Edu and Tammy have dropped a lot of nuggets, and I must say that it's almost like looking into what is in my head to discuss about these two. Like recently, I was just thinking about it. What comes to mind when I say Twitter, which is now X now? What comes to mind when I say Meta? And I'm saying all of these as it relates to the founders. So how many women are out there actually that are leading innovative platforms that we can say, oh, this is a woman and this is somebody that I want to do. You're looking at even Google, you're looking at Microsoft, you're looking at all of these very big institutions, and you will see a man at the forefront. And like Edu and Tammy said, I really agree with you that the landscape is actually changing. Now people are getting aware, and beyond just the ticking of the box, like you said, Tammy, people are making it like a realistic thing, not just something they have on paper just to meet some form of compliance or to get them awards that, oh, we are diversity or inclusion, compliance, and all of that. People are now very deliberate. But I think it goes beyond that now, because like the education piece you mentioned, somebody was sharing with me recently. She happens to be one of my previous staff and a mentee actually. And she got a job in a telecom company. And she said, you know what, some of the guys there told me that it's just because of the bias all around now. They want to favor more female than male. That's why even if you're not competent, they bring you on board. Just imagine already a new person in a new organization, and that is what you hear as a welcome from your contemporaries. So, you know, it is beyond just, okay, so the whole of the mentoring, everything very fine. And I think even while we do all of that, driving ourselves as the advocate to use policies as vehicles that will make this thing come to that real instance of what it actually should be is part of the work we should aim to do. Okay, you mentioned about the women startup and founders and all that, the accelerator programs for them. It's almost like people even fund women just to see what will become of them eventually, just to probably make a statement that, oh, we got this person funded and this is where we are. Is that support group, is it really there enough? But I know it's changing, because I know when I started like over 10 years ago, I looked at myself and like, is this the right place to be? Because it looks like every other person I see does not look like me. But at least now I know and it's so bad that then even when people call you, they expect that you should just be a customer experience person or a customer center person. They don't believe you should be technical because you're a woman. So they call, and when you say, oh, you have this issue, have you checked this? Can you do this? Can I put you through this? Like, I don't want to talk to support. I want to talk to your technical person. Oh, come on, I'm the technical person here. But now, it's, even till this morning, somebody escalated an issue, and guess what? He still wrote Mr. Ubuntu. Because whatever it is, the level of escalation that he feels is escalating to me should be handled by a man, not a woman. So I think it also talks to we women as, you know, as a community to really be intentional about lifting one another up. I've seen different things, and I dare to say that men have this way of pushing themselves and giving all those support, and women need to be cautious about it. And I'm not just talking about maybe just Africa, or maybe because we're Nigerians, because I feel like as a woman that is African, you're Black, is almost like you are 3 times marginalized. You go out there and somebody say, oh, she's white, she's Black. Oh, it's a she. He. You know, you're from Africa, you guys don't even know anything. So it's a whole lot of things to deal with. And that is why we also, and that's why I'm always excited to jump on any women-led mentoring programs like this, to just come, show the representation, know that it is possible and we can make it happen. Even as a female manager, am I also intentional about talking to the hiring managers that please make it open, because somebody is the one. When I remember then, I would go under the table to pass cables and they were like, oh, you're not supposed to do that. I'm like, what's stopping me from doing that? If you're not made the environment friendly enough to help me, then I better help myself. So I'll go on my jeans and wear my very good boots so that I can do all of this without feeling ashamed that a part of my body is exposed or something. And I think it talks to a lot of the resilience that Tammy even mentioned. In making this inclusion work, we are not giving up. We keep doing it. We keep putting, you know, our mouth, everything that we have, where all this talk is going, so that it doesn't just look like we have several mentor programs, we have advocacy programs, but we don't have it really reflecting in, you know, like the thing it's supposed to achieve anyways. So we have to, but like the landscape is changing. And another part I wanted to talk about, which Tammy also mentioned, that if you Google right now and check from statistics, how many CEOs, how many CFOs are female in the Fortune 500, Fortune 100 companies, and even other companies. So beyond just the new startups, even founded companies, how many women have been trusted enough to take that leadership? So I think it's a whole lot to deal with, but of course, I believe in one thing at a time. That is how we get there. So inclusion, right, amazing. But can we still do more? Of course, yes. Thank you.
Fantastic. No, they triggered me. So just hold on, Anita. This conversation, we're just unpacking it as you have got into that trigger. And I wanted something I want to mention. I'm also going to share personal example. And Tammy, please feel free to jump in. The reason why we're having this discussion is to score these that stare us in the face. But guess what? We are going to, because if you don't do it, then what do you want to show your kids? How do we change the dynamics? And just picking back at some of the things I remember at an early stage of the career. And the reason why I'm sharing, when I finish sharing this story, and this is my personal story, we are recorded, but it's fine. When I finish sharing this story, I would draw what the learning should be for everyone on this call, for all the Wendy's on the call. So at the early stage of my career, I think it was 4 or 5 years, I was one of the cybersecurity experts for Microsoft State in Nigeria. At the time, there was a glitch in one of the Western countries in the public system. And so there was the rows around all the countries, public sectors were taking cybersecurity very seriously. And so there were conferences that were being had. And I remember I was a guest speaker in the conference. Now, the first thing you want to notice around my name is my name doesn't give me away as a female. So you don't hear Edwa Basia and you think, oh, I'm expecting a Caroline, or a, the nice, my name is a traditional name that is very dear to my parents' hearts. And so I remember showing up for the cybersecurity conference as a Microsoft rep on cybersecurity, and I was the one to speak. And this was at the time I was in Nigeria, and this was in Abuja. And it was a conference that had most of the public sector attendees. So you had people of force, there was the military, there was the Navy. So it was people of all grade were there. So the first thing that happened is I went in for the conference, and trying to register, someone says to me, oh, now there's so many men registering and nobody is saying anything, but I was late and I was predominantly residing in Lagos. So between trying to catch I think an Arik early morning flight to the delays that comes and getting there, like literally I did over and beyond. You should be happy you've had me. But they didn't even know that I was the speaker that they were waiting for. So the first thing that happened was I got bashed at the entrance trying to register. I got bashed like, why are you late? Everything the man felt was predisposed to things he expected. Yeah, it's because you're a woman. This and you've got to always take things like this on serious. This is a cybersecurity expert, and so she goes on and on and on and on and on. And it wasn't the first time I had come across this kind of things. And so the first thing I said to him was, good morning. I'm sorry that I'm late. My flight was delayed. I'm coming in from Lagos, but I am your speaker for 21. And so I could see the shock, but I could also see let's see what she has to offer. And so I'm going to come back to that, because here we are, when just not sharing stories that you should go out and you need to go out and there's a word we like saying in Nigeria, you need to look like that piece of sliced bread and more. But you also have to know your content. So you need to be grounded in your stuff. You need to be grounded in your technical stuff. So when you think of someone is sort of saying, oh, it's a woman, but by the time they hear you, then that's when you need to, it's like, understand that you need to work 2 times harder to get the respect that you deserve. Okay, so I'm still going to continue the story. So I get into the conference and I get my badge, and my badge is different because I'm a speaker. And because I was somewhat late, so I wasn't going to the front, so I had to sit in the podium. This was a theater type sitting. And so I remember sitting, and I was sitting, and next to me there were some Navy guys. So I had to go past them to go inside and sit down. And it was a cybersecurity conference, so we wanted a lot of things to come alive. So I had gotten a technical expert who flew in that morning from Cairo. And so the guy had arrived Abuja, but he's trying to locate the venue, and he's gotten into the venue, trying to know which hall and all of that. So there's me trying to shuttle out. Everything I'm trying to do is to make sure that you guys have the best of the best experience. I'm just think of, so keep your ears focused on the bias here. And so I go in, try to make sure I get the technical specialist from Cairo, and he's sorted, and he's somewhere really, really at the back. And so I come back and I sit. And then I was told, because now the people who are, working on the projectors, they now know me. And so they had told me, 15 minutes to the session is almost over. Please come out, give me your flash drive so we can plug in your. And so for some reason, I've had to stand up again to go past the Navy guys. And then people turn down on me. Like, what kind of woman are you? Why can't you sit your butt? And it was and then I'm always like, okay, if only you knew that everything I'm trying to do is to make sure that you have a beautiful experience. And so I go out, climb up, give my flash drive and all of that for them to try to fix it up, and I come back to set, and they let me in. But then they weren't the session until the session is over. So it was a thing of, I'm using the force, and of course you are a woman, and of course you had come late, you had nothing to. And so I sit, and so this is where it gets really interesting. And then it was time for I was the guest speaker, and I was actually the major speaker they were waiting for. And so it's time for me to mount now, because the people who had I won't use the word harass. Harass is a bit harsh. The people who had, seen me at the entrance and tried to register me and had done something to me, so they have a face to me, and they sort of knew where I was sitting. And at this time, they told me, "Oh, Ma, would you go to the front?" I was like, "No, like I'm pretty much late. Like I can't be disrupting a venue. Let me just say when it's time, I would mount there." And so at this point, I'm being called on. And so as I'm being called on, these people didn't let me pass, but they didn't know I was the one that was being called. So they have called me. And so I have stood up, and there's someone at the podium. And then the person's like, "Oh, man." All of a sudden, everybody has started to accord me respect, but I have not yet started presenting. And so I'm saying, "Oh, man, can you come up?" I was like, "But the Navy guys here said." And so the first thing for him was, he was super shocked that, oh, this person here is the guest speaker. And then I went in there. Now let's get to understanding your audience and being good at what you do. Because it is very important that, you don't just, what we don't want to do is, we don't want to release you guys from the community and be like, oh, just be there. How do you say, there's something, this traditional saying my mom says, you can't be that empty vessel. When we open you need to be made up of stuff. All right, because only when we do that we begin to afford the other generations respect, that we begin to get this mindset out. And so I went there and I said to myself, you're going to make your mother, your mother, and all the women that are going to come behind you proud. Finished the presentation. And you know what the fun fact was? He was a Navy man that was sent from his organization to meet with me. So his only reason for coming here was that he was to meet with a Microsoft representative. But up until that time, he did not know that he was sitting by the side with the person. And then, because me and him do know what had transpired between us. And so after the session, there are a lot of people trying to meet with you. And there's the part of me keeping an eye on him. I could see his boss going to, go to her. You have to tell her about the issues. You need to get her card. And so I can see I can see him, struggling to come forward. And then he comes and he's part of the queue waiting to see me. And so I stop everybody and I'm like, "Oh, yes, sir. Can I attend to you?" Because again, the point was not to drive, the point, the message has been delivered. "Can I help you?" And he was like, "Oh, I was wondering." I was like, "Don't worry. This is my email. Send this to me. I'm going to work with you on it." I could have, gone on that stage and made a blunder that is like, "You see, we knew it. It's a woman." But the point I'm trying to make here is, are these things that stare us right in our faces? Yes, absolutely. They do. Are we going to go beyond it? Are we going to go past it? We're going to succeed in it? Yes. But we're also going to succeed in it with a lot of content. So always think about it that if it's going to take a man to get away with something, I need to do better. And so for every time you want to show up, be sure that you've prepped. Be sure that, you be sure that you've done the fundamentals. Do not show up and give people the reason to say, "You see, I said it was a woman. No, you will show up. And because you show up the way you show up, a lot more women are going to be taken into that organization. They're going to see you. And when they see you, they will get more people into it. Is it the reality that we're living into? That we're living? Yes, it is. But ultimately, this conversation is to show to you guys we're surviving in that reality. And we're intentionally paving the way that it gets easier for other people. And the only way you're going to pave that way is not, there's no shortcuts. Like if you have to put in the work, you have to put in the work. If you're on a job, you have to be innovative, you have to keep learning, you have to be hunger for growth. So it's not, there's no gets, let's do it quickly and come. All right, okay. Anita, sorry, we're just drifting your conversation anyhow, but I think
sorry, Anita. It's
a very important
topicful,
issue.
and I'm gonna let you jump in, Anita. It's topicful, but like I think if we don't have these conversations, if we don't go into the segue, then we're not really empowering these beautiful Wentors that are on the call, and it's something that we will all face. We will all face it. So it's better to go in knowing this so that you are prepared. Just as Eddie Obasi said, know your onions, know your stuff, because people will look at you, unfortunately, and they will judge you. You don't have to open your mouth. They will judge you just on the way you look. So shock them. And I'll let you get back on it. But I just wanted to say that shock them because you have it in you to do that.
And you cannot shock them without doing
I like that, shock them.
Yes,
you
shock them with the content
motivation for living here should be shock, not motivation. Your motto for leaving this webinar should be shock them.
Shock them. And for you to shock
with your
them,
content.
you need to know your stuff.
Yes.
You need to know your stuff. That's the only way you shock
inside out.
You need to know
your content.
Inside out.
At the end of every question, I just feel like clapping because
you have to know it.
Saying, that you've gone through the same thing and you're excelling in your field. And talking about the stereotypes that women face, like in tech, that's been around, stereotype towards women has been around for decades, right? But it's also been a common thing that women are reluctant to, push out their ideas. And this is betting from, us saying that, the gap is women being pushed into leadership positions, to being innovators. Now, there's been a reluctance when it comes to women defending their ideas or, being just nervous, talking about what they have in mind or taking up leadership positions. So how true is this and what can we do, to minimize this for women, especially in the tech sector? Starting off with Tammy.
Thanks, Anita. I know that in percentage, there's only like 100%, but that statement you made is 110% because it's the way that we are built. There are statistics. If you look on a job board, look at, these are.
Is it just me?
The requirements. A man will look at it and be like, there's 10 things on there. I can tell it's like, oh, yeah, can you hear me?
We're good now. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't know what you heard up to, but I said statistically, if you go on a job board, right? And there's requirements, this is a job. First of all, the woman will look at the title. Oh, it says enterprise architect. Okay, well, I can't do that, right? And then some women might just go in and then look at, okay, what are the things? Oh, I can do this, or I can't do this. And out of 10 things, they could probably do 7 or 8, but they'll be like, oh, no, I'm not going to do it. A man will look at it, he can only do half of one and he's going to apply. And then he will blag it at the interview. He doesn't know it, but, and that is just the nature of the beast that is in a man. So statistically, about 70% of women don't apply for a job because they feel like they're not qualified. And they're more qualified than the people that are applying, right? So everything that you said on that, Anita, is 100% right. Now, what it is that we have to do is build on our and I think this also lends to what Edo Abasu was saying. If you know your content, you know what you're worth. And you know that even if there's 1 or 2 things you can't do, you can either close that gap because you're going to read voraciously on it and learn it up and come in saying, look, very honestly, I can't, I don't have it. And it's the way you word it at the interview. I don't have experience in that, but with the experience that I do have, I'm a very quick learner and I can get up to speed on that very quickly, right? It's that confidence. But that confidence doesn't come from shocking them with your looks. It comes from shocking them with your content and being prepared and not going into an interview thinking, oh, I went to an interview last week, so it's going to be the same. And that's the same, it's the way you show up. We have to know how to show up in a way that brings our value, because each of us have value. Your life experience makes up 70% of your value. And everyone's life experience is different. Everyone's learned experience is different. So you're already coming to the table with something. So have that in the back of your mind. And then coming through a program like this, in this cohort, you learn the soft skills, right? That's building up on things that a lot of men do not have, those soft skills. That's building up on, on your value that you're bringing, understanding what your brand is, understanding who you are, what you bring to the table. It helps to push forward. And I think as women, we just need to get that confidence, when I'm in a meeting room, one of the things that I do, because I do have a lot of junior people that are in there, I draw them into the conversation, right? So once we do build our confidence and we come into that place and we step into the place of leader around us, and then draw them out, because women are nurturers, right? So of course we're building up to the place where we are able to come into the room, come to the table, have a voice, but we do that by consistently making sure that our voice is heard. If we keep quiet, no one's going to know us. If we don't open up our mouths to speak our ideas, no matter how stupid we think it is, somebody in the room is going to be like, I never thought of that. That's an excellent idea. You're shocking them. So again, that's what we need to do. Open up our mouths, use our voice, but then, as Edu Abasi said, when you open up your mouth, don't let it be an empty sound that comes out. Let it be a rush of knowledge, of content, of ability, because people can spot that. People can spot that a mile off. So just make sure that you're equipping yourselves with the things that will make it such that when you open up your mouth, you're saying something that makes sense.
Thank you so much for that. Chinua, I would love to know your ideas on this as well. How can we push women to take on more leadership roles, to overcome, that mindset that they don't know what they're doing?
Okay, thank you, Anita. I always like to also take you from whoever speaks first on the subject as said. And Tammy, you're right there, spot on, right? But there's another perspective to it personally that I think one way or the other has also shaped my life. And that is the family. It might look like it's inconsequential. And I know, just like you said about the 7% of our life experiences, it's also part of it. But many a times, how are we raised as a girl child? I think it goes a long way to also speak to, because even if the opportunity is given, there's this thing that comes from within about how you perceive yourself. And that is what makes you to really position yourself where or how, you get what I'm trying to say. So I grew up as a girl child that my father so much believed that, Tinade is outspoken and, he will make us watch debate, we'll stand. Immediately they finish junior debate, we are debating the same topic again, and he's already giving us scores. And there's a challenge, he's not leaving it to just my younger brother. But it's like, okay, you guys go and do this. So already I have this mindset of the boy doesn't have a better brain than I do. He can talk, I can talk. He can reason, I can reason. He can make things happen, I can make things happen. And I think it goes a long way to also shape it so that I'm not feeling inferior. Because another thing that happens, just like you said about the job board statistics, a woman says something and it feels, this is not my thing, I won't be able to do it. What about if they find out that I'm a fraud? There's this imposter syndrome too that comes with all of this. So I think it's just having that mindset reconditioning so that beyond what you're called, you know who you are and you speak forth who you are. And before you know it, it's just like somebody calling me a name that is not mine. I probably would not move. But immediately got Tinuade, I would look because that's my name. But if I'm already arguing, I'm second guessing that it's actually my name. So if they call me Tinuke, I will probably say, maybe they made a mistake. And that's right. And before you know it, you settle into all of this. And it comes with that creating the environment to also train, and which was what I said the other time. So as a female manager, I see youngsters coming in. How am I making them see themselves? Am I making them see the value in themselves? So there's something I do every time we have this quote of IWD is to tell my mentees that you have to do a brag sheet. And what is going to be in your brag sheet? Tell yourself, remind yourself those things you have excelled at doing years back when you were younger, anything that you can remember you excel at, that you can speak even when they tap you and say, wake up, talk about this or do this. Those are the things that you have to remind yourself constantly, so that every other time when somebody pushes what is not true to you, you are able to, and please, let's do that maturely and with emotional intelligence. I think there's this movie I saw, Hidden Figures, and if anything stood out for me in that Hidden Figures is the way these Black women were pushing their points constantly without needing to fight. I think we lose it most times when we want to get ourselves like, oh, you don't recognize me, I want to be recognized. And they're like, oh, that's how they do, women, but you come out intelligently, which still speaks about the content that Edubasi was saying the other time. So when there's a way you can come and you just feel like, oh, you are not harmful in the negative, right? And you speak about the thing and everybody's like, what? Where did that come from? Who is that? And so it will not be too long, the people will begin to see. And of course, like the hiring managers and all of that have things to do about, don't advertise position that looks like you have already knocked off any female applicant that wants to come on board. Don't bring people into a system and already make it like it's a men or a male-dominated field. You try to treat some people specially and try. So we have to also be cautious of all of these, like I said, from us, like coming from within our families, and even as we are also growing, we are aunties, we are mummies, we also have to help the people coming up to see themselves better than the way the world will want to see. Before I close on this, I quickly want to say something. So I saw a movie some times ago, and there's this Indian lady who happens to be the first pilot in India. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I had a voice. Okay, so she wanted to be, and she also had a brother that also is, in the pilot school and all that. And so they're both soldiers. And something happened that got me really thinking in that movie. When everybody goes, there's like a changing room, but they are not made provision for any female. So imagine, guys, they throw their things. She can't do that. And she was getting stuck every now and then. One day she thought to it, I had always wanted this. Even before she got into that school, it was a lot for her. She had to go through so many things. She applied almost like 3 or 4 years. So she made a curtain, she would change. So while they're thinking they were going to make her feel intimidated, she was just devising means to get creative around solving every barrier or hurdles that she had to cross. And eventually, she graduated, and they would deploy them. And she was in a picture of about 11 soldiers, but she was the only female. And the brother told her, "You're joking. Can't you see yourself? You don't even fit in here. Everybody will say you don't know what you want and all that." And she said, "No. Everybody says that. Who do you? You are my brother. Do you see me as just yet another human different from this thing? Or you see me as part of these humans in this portrait?" And he said, "Oh, I didn't see it that way." So that's why I said something about the reconditioning. Oh, will a woman lead well? They have a lot to deal with. When I wanted to become a manager, there was a close meeting about, oh, she will soon go on maternity leave. How will she do it? This is the core of the company. This is the brain of the, this is the core. And, another voice just spoke. Is there anything you have given her to do that she doesn't deliver on? She excels at what she does. She keeps, and there's a concept that I always believed, and it sticks with me, is the ABCD, above, beyond, the call of duty. Every time we put that in, it pushes something. Thank you.
Wow, I learned something. ABCD, above, beyond,
the
The call of duty. Tinuade for president.
In front of the video.
Tinuade for president.
She dropped the gem.
You have my vote.
The video, like,
she dropped the mic.
She dropped the mic. That was awesome. For Edu, I have a new question for you that actually hits close to home. So when we talk about implementing inclusion and diversity initiatives, it often means that we have to change the existing systems, right? And the mindset within organizations that we are in. So, as leaders and change agents, how do you engage in transparent communication to proactively address concerns and elevate fears, or buy in new diversity and equity programs? How do you basically change the system that you're in?
Well, I think changing a system is a big deal, right? I typically see it as, what part do you want to contribute in making that change, right? I mean, if I had a magic wand, right, I would change all these things that we women don't have to go through it. But the truth is, I don't. What I do is I raise up my hand for any opportunities that afford me to do that. And what do I mean by that? For instance, the conversation that we had yesterday with Tech Cabal, it was not convenient. But I said to myself, if you don't show up, how do you begin to push this narrative? And so key to that for me was showing up, rejigging my calendar, it has to work out. So for key to the it for me, I think when I was a lot younger, my mom used to say something. He said, "What do you want to be remembered for? How do you want to?" And then she was taking a bit deeper. At that time, I was very young. She's like, "How do you want to mark your name in the sands of time?" I would be like, "It's very. I just want to have money and be beautiful and be happy. What name are you talking about?" But I think as I grew older, it meant differently, right? And so change agent, all good and beautiful. It's also recognizing what is within my remit that I can do. And if something that is within your remit, how are you working towards it? Personally, I try to be part of policy type conversations, opportunity to speak to the government, be in those closed meeting rooms. I raise up my hand even when it's not convenient. That's the best. Understand what I'm saying? And if you have other actions on which you think we could all do this, we're doing it. We're doing it already. Wentors is part of the way that I thought, you know what, I'd gone through so much from a career standpoint. And Wentors was a case of reflecting personally. It was a case of personal reflection and saying, what could have made the difference in your life? And I used to share my story that I studied as software engineering. I finished as the best software engineer. I was in first class, but nobody prepares you into I've seen someone ask question about imposter syndrome. Nobody prepares you in school. Nobody, everybody's teaching you engineering, programming, 202. Nobody tells you that there's imposter syndrome somewhere. Nobody is able to show. Even tells you that the kind of story that Sinode shared of her mentee showing up in the environment and they're saying, "Oh, we're trying to meet a D&I." Are you kidding me? A woman that has probably studied, worked her way, and you think you're using me to tick a box, right? No, so those conversations, nobody had it. And so for me, getting into work and understanding like, hey, while your degree was all beautiful, they were like really soft skills that nobody told you about. No, literally, nobody tells you that it is important to network. And when I thought of someone like me, where I honestly like my Fridays to lie down on my bed. I'm not that, thank God it's Friday. You see, like the pub, I need 1 month to recover. I'm not even joking. And is that because I have anything, but it's just personality difference. Yeah, I would rather go out for a dinner. And then when you realize that, oh, on Friday, everybody is hanging out and is late till 1 a.m. And people are telling you, how do you want to progress your career? Like, who's going to be speaking for you? So there are like salient things that nobody practically taught. And so for me, it was also a case of, reflecting on my personal journey. And this is, we're glad to say that. Can you mute, please? Wendy, please mute. Thank you. And so for me, it was a personal reflection. And in that personal reflection was, I can have this reflection and I can, say, you know what, every year I'm going to mentor 1 or 2 women. And then when I think back in another 20 years or 30 years, then I thought, but I can have it full-blown platform? How do we begin to handhold people? I think so. Key to that for me is you need to paying your way forward. If we all are intentional to contribute, it's like saying, when they say every penny, when you keep putting that 1 penny, one day will become £1, and you keep putting that pound, it become £10, £100, 1,000. And so if we keep dropping our pennies, like the way we've called Tammy out today, and say, like, Tammy, you have to be in this conversation with us. You can't run away tonight. And we're all dropping it. And you guys are listening. Obviously, when you get into the workforce, some things would happen, and you will remember what Tammy said. Some things will happen, and you'll be like, oh, this is similar to the experience they do had, and then when you come out of it, what would you do? You would think of, what, I would see that, graduate training, and I'll tell that, you don't worry, you can do it if you had this issue. I think for me, pretty much that's it. It's just being intentional and thinking, how do I give back? How do I be part of conversation? How do I raise my hand when there's an opportunity to? Anisha, that was a mouthful. I know.
No, but it was a mouthful of golden nuggets. Thank you very much. So because of time, we'll be taking 2 more questions. 1 question for Tammy, and then 1 question across the panel. So for Tammy, how can leaders model openness to learning and acknowledge that they don't know, and creating psychologically safe space for people to share the experiences they lived, especially for women?
I think. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can hear you.
We can
Sorry,
hear
you.
this is the danger of working in the tech industry. And so I had a call that started 8 minutes ago, and somehow they summoned me. And when I clicked on mute, I was in 2 rooms, but I'm here. I am here. I think the thing is, we have to learn how to be. We have to be able to feel safe, to be vulnerable. And that's something that I've learned. And you can't do it in every team, right? It's something that you have to build. So you can't go into a team wearing your vulnerability, which is unfair, but that's the landscape. That's where we are, right? So what I've learned is, once you have been able to build that culture in your team, you have to be confident in your vulnerability, because we're all human. No one is a machine. And one thing that I've learned is that it's okay to say, actually, I don't know about this thing now, but I will come back to you with a response. So here's what you're doing. You're setting the scene to say, I'm not the expert on this, but I know somebody who is, and I will get you the information that you need. Give me some time and I'll come back. But then you have to follow up on it, right? You can't just then make a promise and not hold on to it. So this is how you set the scene. Leave it with me. I'll come back to you with a response. So we have to be comfortable in being vulnerable. But then we also have to encourage it as well, because sometimes then when you get into a space, you get rejected, or you get thought of, oh, she's being emotional because she's being a woman. Now, there's a difference between being emotional and being vulnerable. Being vulnerable is saying, actually, I'm telling you, I'm scared to say that I don't know it, because I think you will feel like I'm not competent enough at my job, but I'm confident enough to know that I'm competent. I'm just not a subject matter expert at this particular piece, but I will find the person who knows about it. That's me then being resilient. I will find that person and I will bring the answer back to you. And that's what we need to learn how to do. No, I don't know. Why are you asking me for? Leave it with me. So, and again, it's about choosing your words, because when you say, I don't know, people already have this bias, right? So they already put it. So just say, leave it with me. You've not said you don't know. Leave it with me. I'll come back to you in the next hour, in the next tomorrow. I'll come, but then you have to make sure that you follow up and you come back. And that's how I think we can break that cycle and break that barrier, by being vulnerable, but then also being resilient in our vulnerability. Ask Ejo Abasis about being vulnerable in cyber systems, right? If you compare it to vulnerability in a cyber system, you have to hack, you have to test, right? So this is your hack.
Oh my God.
Thank you. All right. So
It's the way you picked
we
on
have our
me right
last
now.
question that will contact the panel. So Chidra, please give three tips.
All the teachers give it to you. From
Give us top 3
Okay, so I don't think he's in any order actually, but let me quickly say something about the vulnerability Tammy said.
Okay.
I always tell myself that being vulnerable is just showing that I'm human and nothing more. Honestly, I'm not a robot. I'm not a machine. So I have my own struggling times, as it were. I have times that I'm not just at my best. But, like she said, you just have to be careful how you say all of this, which of course talks a lot about our communication skills. Okay, so tips about, I think one thing stands for me, and that is emotional intelligence, to be honest with you. It's easy for someone to get broken when you hear things or see things around you that does not just fit. We feel it should just go straight, and it's not coming in straight, and you just get discouraged. So you have to be emotionally intelligent. And I'll tell you that aspect where you apply it. When somebody that doesn't know enough about something talks to me about a thing, rather than judging, like, why would you say that to me? I would rather put it the other way. He or she had spoken based on their level of knowledge. So I don't get so angry. I don't get myself unnecessarily worked out and become unproductive. So every other aspect of emotional intelligence that works for you, you really need to build it to also build your resilience, your stamina, like I would always like to call it. Another thing, I will take it back to the content, which is a big one for me. In fact, everybody, you are conservative to have said 2x. I always say 10x. And that is because you have to beat it, mold it, make it, let it come out. And like everybody can't argue it again. You get to that stage that people know that, yes, she has it. You can roll your head for all you care because she's a woman. Don't let them come and say, oh, it's favorism. They favor that. People had, like Nigerian setting, especially, you see when a woman rises to the top and the next thing is, oh, maybe she has something to do with the boss. You have to build yourself to that level that, yes, when you talk, when you put your hands on something, I used to tell people that the kind of feedback I used to get, in my previous work and all that is when I'm leaving, my bosses would tell me, let me tell you something, anytime they city, is on this, that is how much confidence they have built because I have also, I'm putting time, I'm putting the effort. I just don't want to be, because the woman, people are ready to talk you down anyways. So it's a choice thing. You give them the right to do so, or you make them keep quiet about doing so. Or even if they say they know that, they will just pinch themselves. She's a subject matter on this, or she knows what she's saying, or I've had things that come, especially with changes, that people just want to do it by muzzle. And once I tell my CEO that, no, we cannot do this for this reason, this reason, this reason, this reason. In fact, we just summon that meeting quickly and say, these are the points who has something contrary. But I won't just come and say it when I've not done my own homework, when I'm not constantly keeping myself abreast of what happens in my field. So just be excellent enough to make yourself, that's, when you talk about, let them know that, yes, you're not just talking about it because you have oratory skills, but you know what you are doing. And maybe the last one will be that network. Don't abuse it, though, because I think people abuse it. But see, the internet has given us room for so many things. That you can learn from people that have gone. You can leverage and compress time to a very large extent. Please utilize it and don't abuse it. Because what I've noticed most times is that people abuse all of this and say, it's Wentors, we are there, I'm not paying for it. And, I'm picking Wentors because this is Wentors we are, and it applies to everything, so that you are able to maximize the worth that comes from networking, the word that comes from, going out to learn and getting people speak about what they have gone through, so that you don't make those mistakes, or you are able to build on it. So I think that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. So number one, emotional intelligence. Number two, know your audience. And number three, network. So those are the top 3 tips for Tinua. And over to Edu. What are your top 3 tips to inspire inclusion?
I think Tinua and Tammy has covered a lot of it. To be fair, it would just be me repeating. I'm very big on know your stuff. You need to know your stuff. You know, let people, again, the buzzword out of this conversation is shock them. Shock everybody that will come. So it's like
above and beyond of
you get shock them. So for me, that is key. That is very, very key. And as Tammy mentioned, it's okay to be vulnerable, but be very intentional with how you phrase your words, right? 2 people can mean the same thing, but say it differently, and it will generate different results. Communication is key. We do a lot of work doing training. You guys shouldn't miss our soft skills training. We put in a lot of effort to craft this, but I would say, as everyone has said, shock them. My own vulnerability, knowing that the way someone can hear something else, and it's still showing that you're vulnerable, go back and shock them. So if you're telling somebody, I will get back to you, please get back to the person. Integrity is key. I want to go to bed when I hear you say, I'm going to get back to you something, and I say, you know what, it's you, I believe you. Look, in my career, I've had so many assignments being thrown at me, and I remember one time telling my manager, it's like, I know it's you will get it done. Like, I know you don't have that skill set, but because I know it's you're going to put in the work to get it done. So you have to get to the level where people are building that level of trust in you, right? And so imagine that you are that kind of person, and then you say to somebody, oh, because I'm just new to this, I haven't gotten a hands on it yet, I will get back to you. Would anybody go back to say, oh, you are incompetent? No, everybody will be excitedly waiting for when you get a hands on it, because we know that we're about to take it a step much higher. All right. So if there's anything you have to take away, please take away that is the ABCD, very important, and then shock them. Shock everybody. And then every resources that we are availing to you here, like as Tinua has said, that Wentors is free. It comes to us at a very expensive cost, my darlings. So that I know in another 1 week, you're going to be having a CV. This whole cohort is focused on CV optimization, CV and your career. And we're intentional about it. We're taking you guys through a process. And we want you to come out of that process and land your dream jobs. So you cannot be absent. Remember when I said you show up? So the first thing you need to tell yourself is show up for yourself. So forget raising your hand to even show up to change policies, to change the world. Start by showing up for yourself. When you show up for yourself, it boosts your confidence. And I'll give you my personal example. So one of the things I said to myself this year is, I'm going to show up for myself this year. Every day, I'm going to read a book. I'm going to spend about 30 minutes to read a book. I read a minimum of 30 minutes in a book. I can tell you about the book I'm currently reading. It's The Magic of Thinking Big. And some of the things I'm learning from that book is what I heard Tinua said, where she said, strip off and brag about yourself. So in The Magic of Thinking Big, it says, what are your strengths? Sit down and evaluate yourself. We are very quick to say, oh, I'm a very forgetful person, I don't remember. Those are your weaknesses. Sit down and start scripting and tell yourself, I am good in this, I am good in that. And so for every time you feel bad or you want to go into your negative, withdraw from your positive. Remind yourself, this is how good I am. And so what I said to myself this year, I'm going to show up for myself. I'm going to read a book every day. We're in March, and I cannot tell you how. Do you want to know how many books I've read? If you're curious enough, ask me on the chat. I read books a book every day. So for me, not reading the entire book, it's spending 30 minutes to read the book. And I listen to a minimum of 2 podcasts. And of course, I'm not talking about podcast on how to look beautiful is beautiful, if that is how you want to show up for yourself. But podcasts on personal development. I listen to 2 podcasts daily, and I'm listening. So think about it. I'm making breakfast in the morning. I'm listening to podcasts. I'm driving down to pick my kids in school. Instead of just listening to the radio or listening to everything that is happening in the world that should not be happening, I'm feeding my mind with that. I'm listening to podcasts. And every day I read a minimum of 30 minutes. That's how I decided to show up for my personal development. I have the different way I said to myself, this year I'm going to show up in my career, and I can begin to break that down. So the most important thing that you need to know is that you need to show up for yourself. You need to take yourself seriously. If you don't take yourself seriously, the world will not. I can hear background. If you don't take yourself seriously, the world would not take you seriously. So showing up for yourself could mean, oh, I averagely would have spent 2 hours or 3 hours on Instagram and spent this amount of data doing this. Instead of doing that, I probably would turn that data into something else and probably just spend, instead of 3 hours, 20 minutes, whatever that means for you. Showing up for yourself is taking the things we're doing, for instance, in Wentors seriously. It's showing up for your mentorship meetings. That's how it is. We have curated a list of things for you guys to have a beautiful session and be impacted. And maybe on that day, you give yourself a beautiful excuse. Oh, I can't show up for this CV. Oh, there are 3 of those sessions happening, or be 2 of them. I'm going to show up for the second one. But guess what? Will shock you, because the second one is a continuation of the first one. And then guess what? You don't get the full value of it. You get. So you get to select the books. Okay, so you saw on the chat. So I think the thing that ultimately what we're trying to say here is it all starts from within. The first thing that you all on this call have done is showing up to be here. Well done. But apart from that, it's, placing that priority on yourself and showing up for yourself. And and in showing up for yourself, that's how you build your content. When you show up for yourself, you by default build your content. Okay? But yeah, it's 12:24. That's like
yeah. So unfortunately that call, but yes, her session was insightful. But from the tips from Edu, number 1 is shock them, aka know your onions. Number 2, communication is key. And number 3, accountability, which means show up for yourself. Now we have a couple of questions. I think it's just 2. Number 1 is coming to you at Edu, is how do you get to select your books that you read? How did you come about this?
Okay, so that one you probably need to have a different one-on-one with me. I probably wouldn't bug everybody on the calls, but again, ultimately the way I go about it is, what are you looking to achieve? So think about it generally, and I'll give a random example. If you're looking to learn data science, or you're looking to go into cybersecurity, how would you select your books? You're going to be all about cybersecurity in the threat landscape. Now, for me, you guys have said to you, since we're using me as a case study and I'm being vulnerable and sharing with you practically what I'm doing now, is how do I select the books that I'm currently reading? For the things I'm looking to, right, guide my headspace. So I'm not that typical person in doing that guy lecture. So for instance, and I'll let you into some of the books. So think of like As a Man Thinketh in His Heart. That's one of the books. And then right now I'm reading the Magic of Thinking Big. Right. I've read, this is like, I'm pretty much on like my 5th book for the year so far, but it's books towards that. Ultimately, are those books saying the same things? Not really, but maybe yes, in different ways. And for me, doing that, and it's sticking to my head. And even in the podcast I am listening to, those podcasts are saying the same thing. So it's a way of, I'm trying to have a mind shift towards something. And in trying to do the mind shift towards something, there's a lot of environmental play. There's everything happening in the economy right now. There's everything happening across the world. And for me, for what the Nigerians would say, focus on my focus is I need that, that way of thinking, right? And so that's where I have, and so that's what guides my book selection. So ultimately is, what are you looking to achieve? And so that's why I would say it's easy to say, just pick up a book and read Meals and Bones and any of those. Well, that is beautiful, but again, it's targeted on what I was trying to achieve. And it wasn't just about me, it was also about me and my husband, about us on the family. So it's a lot of things, joined into it. And so in doing that, I also wanted to hold myself accountable. So I have an accountability group. So I kid you not, if I don't read a minimum of 30 minutes, I don't sleep. So sometimes I sleep late because I'm so tired. I was like, no, I have to show up. And so I have to read that book. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, before we take the last question, I would love for everybody to please get camera ready because we're going to take our pictures. So please, as we take the last question, which we're going to Tinu Ade, I would love to see us turn on our cameras and be pretty for our cheese time. All right, Tinu Ade, the last question will go to you, which is, I would like to know if any of the speakers have had experience with imposter syndrome and how they were able to overcome it.
Does that thing ever go?
I know. I was just thinking about that. Like,
does that thing ever go? That mind of I think that's essentially why that brag sheet helps a lot. Honestly, it's not a one-time thing that you just do and leave, because every other day you also outdo yourself. And that maybe initially you didn't even know how everything is going to work out, but eventually you got it done. And you're just, what were the feedbacks that when you eventually got this completed? So it will always help. And I think, just like Edubasi said about feeding your mind with what, I tell people that definition of success for everybody differs, and that's the truth. For some on this call, your success story might just be for you to successfully transition from something to another thing, like maybe a soft field. Some of us maybe already in one tech domain want to go. Another person maybe might just be like, oh, I just get straight on where am I even going? It's a different thing for everybody. So when you know exactly what you want to do, then you keep feeding it too, because it's what you feed that nurtures, or that grows rather. What you nurture grows. So you have to keep doing that and always tell yourself that, okay, I am the value. I carry value on the inside of me, and I can do this. Tammy said the other time, you might not know everything. We don't even know everything, but I will get to it. Leave it with me. Going back to it. So the way you have been faithful in those little things also determines how you will do the bigger ones that comes. So imposter syndrome, honestly, is real. So I won't tell you that maybe me, I don't let me be for me, Madam Edward said I but that everybody should be vulnerable, right? So sometimes this thing is so pressing that you begin to like, oh my God, I said I did this. Did I really do that? Okay. By the time I'm like, okay, what happened? What was this project all about? This. What were my contributions? What were the things I do? Oh, really? Actually did. So you have to keep account. You need to document. It will also help you. So there are some things I will just dig off some of my books now, and I'll look through it. I'm like, you did this. So, it forces me, like, I can even do more. I can do better. So anytime you feel like, oh, you're a cheat, you're a fraud, you remind yourself, I've been able to surpass this. Sorry, I'm a Christian. And I would, for people that are Christian, or maybe will be able to understand it, when David wanted to go to Samuel, King Saul rather, to talk about how he will fight Goliath, he took some of his brag sheet with him, or some of the points in his brag sheet. He said, I killed the lion, I killed the bear. He was able to, so people now as a king, me, I've not killed a bear before, I've not killed a lion before. Give him the opportunity. So you also have to help yourself, outdo yourself. Remember, I know Edu now said that it's, you know, the ABCD. So by the time you continually do that, you also have to stretch yourself. Do you think a woman with children, family, everything, decided for my own personal trajectory, I will read a book 30 minutes. Even when she's even reading it, something comes up that is also very important, but she has committed to it. So you cannot take away that growth mindset to always counter the imposter syndrome, and don't keep quiet about it. Your ability to be honest is showing the human side of you. Get bodies that you can talk to and do not judge you. I felt like this about this thing. Or sometimes you even feel like taking the glory for a project that you feel you're not the one that did it completely, right? So talk to someone about it that you can trust, that will not judge you, and you'll be able to, like, okay, calm down, girl. You did this particular, so you have to cheat. So I think those are some of the ways I have dealt with and still dealing with it, because I need to put that in records. It's not that.
Something I wanted to mention is that, sorry, Anita, just before we get to your pictures, we have had the beautiful Alison Shamer take us on in this community on imposter syndrome. She's come to us like twice on imposter syndrome. You can check Alison Shamer out on LinkedIn. She's one of the best imposter syndrome experts in the world. And a lot of the community members were part of it. What I would ask Wendy, because at this rate, when everybody in the team is showing up as Wendy, I'm not sure now, but I would ask Wendy to send the recording of the sessions we had with Alison Shamer. That would be in your inbox. That should be our Easter gift to you. It is going to be, it's a recording that is not like you're going to have it entirely, it's going to expire. So I would ask that it would be set to expire in 72 hours. You see what I said? You show up. So if you want to show up for yourself, when you get that recording, actually not 72 in 48 hours. If you want to show up for yourself, when you get that recording, you would watch it within 48 hours. We do pay speakers to come and talk about imposter syndrome, so that you would receive as an Easter gift. And if you don't watch it in 48 hours, then you will not have access to it. Okay. But imposters, when you listen to that recording on imposter syndrome, I think it will strip off a lot of things and how to deal with it, and sort of just understanding that it's okay to have it. All right, Anita, back to you.
All right, then we have lots of opportunities that we share there, lots of tips, like the information goes via the link. Just please do here. So what's me for being here as well. You've dropped a lot of golden nuggets for us. And again, to our Wentors, this is nothing if you don't put it to action. So I really encourage you to put it to action. I want you to be able to be next on our panel session to talk about your experiences from Wentors and from the tech sector. So thank you everyone for coming on board. Please, I would love for us to turn on our cameras within a quick second to say cheese, but that is fine. But thank you, Princess. Thank you, Faizat, for turning on your cameras. Oh, I'm seeing everybody coming on now. Hi. Oh, we're so
See all the beautiful faces. You guys just let us.
You were just hiding.
I'm just hiding.
Just hiding.
Maybe if we saw your beautiful faces, it would have been, you share more. Who knows?
Who knows? Hi. Please say cheese. All right. So thank you everyone for coming on. I look forward to seeing you on our next skill session happening on the 5th of April. That would be for CV optimization. So please, if you want to get your CV in order, I'm seeing you on the 5th. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a beautiful weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.